There's something about marching into Iowa when everything pertaining to their season matters still. They have a chance to make the Big Ten championship. They have a chance to get on I think it was an 8-win streak against Nebraska, or would have been if they would have won today. Everything mattered for them. For Nebraska, we've seen them crumble at home. We lost last week to Wisconsin. We've seen them, I don't want to say give up, but it feels like give up, at least on one side of the ball at times. We've seen everything go against us, and there was no reason to have hope for today. We had that same commentary last year. We felt like we got screwed. We felt like we had bad luck. We felt like over and over when opportunities had presented themselves, and there was a chance for us to win and make a statement on multiple occasions, we just couldn't get over the hump. And today it finally happened when nothing mattered. None of this mattered. Nebraska still found it deep within to go out and win. The coaching staff still figured out how to call a game to pull off a major upset when none of them, I mean maybe one, is going to be on this next staff. Maybe two if they're lucky. For the most part, this coaching staff knows this is their last game. And they went out there and came up with a great game plan. They figured out how to get their team motivated. And they took it to Iowa pretty much the entire game. There were some moments when things started to get sweaty. There were some moments when it was a little too close for comfort, and I'm sure you did as well, had those little ticklish feelings in the back of your head saying, I've seen this movie before, and it's going to happen again. But it didn't happen again. They figured out how to put a complete game together. They figured out how to finish strong, and they beat them down strong. They showed, once again, that all of these teams in the West that we've been playing against are all teams we should be beating. And okay, thank you, Mickey Joseph. Thank you, this entire staff, before I say this. But there's a new era coming to Nebraska. And I hope today was kind of the final day where we can look at this team and say, who knows if they can beat a shitty Iowa team. Really quick, if you got kids listening or if you're sensitive to foul language, this is a good chance for you to mute me for a minute because I'm at my most emotional state right now. And I'm not going to hold back. This is an unfiltered show. Okay, fuck Iowa. Let's start there. Okay, let me get back. I'm emotional right now. A new era is coming. Nebraska has a new coach coming in. We'll talk about that in a bit. We'll talk about the rumors and all of that. I promise you we're going to get to all of it. I just want to acknowledge where we are with this program today. 5 years, 6, 7 years of being beat down and walked on by shitty football teams in the Big Ten West. Teams who have no business beating Nebraska. Teams who have no business being on the same field most of the time. Have walked on us, made us look like the doormat, made us the new Illinois, the new Purdue, the new Maryland of the Big Ten. It's been an utter joke, and today we finally saw what it should look like. We finally got balance back in the world. This is what Nebraska football is and should be. I have no problem with a dominant performance in the beginning and a slower, back end of the game. I have no problem as long as we finish with wins. And this team had it in them. This team was more talented today. This team was more disciplined today. How about that? This team was more disciplined than a Kirk Ferentz Iowa team. And you're welcome, Brian Ferentz, for, I don't want to say injuring Petrus, but you're welcome that you got an opportunity to play the guy who actually gave you a chance to win. God, if I was an Iowa fan, I'd be so pissed off. I saw the pictures and the videos of Iowa fans on the TV while I watched that game, and I could see how frustrated they were. My friends who were at the game were texting me the entire time, talking about how much shit the Iowa fans were talking on their coaching staff and on their team because they were so upset watching them lose to shitty Nebraska, and it felt so good to hear it. All of the comments I've gotten on this channel, all of the things you've been said to your face, on Twitter, online, whatever, was all finally quieted. Trey Palmer, I've got a lot to talk about with him. But I want to say a special thank you to Trey Palmer because without Trey Palmer today, Nebraska wasn't winning that game. He's able to get open when there are no other options on the field. Marcus Washington had a couple great plays. Oliver Martin did as well. But when we talk about elite receivers, Trey Palmer fits in that category. Trey Palmer looks the part. Trey Palmer plays the part. How many yards did Trey Palmer have today? Trey Palmer had 165 yards receiving. People said maybe not the best wide receiver in Nebraska history. He's only been here for one season. But without a doubt, marked his name down because he broke the single season receiving yards record today. Incredible performance by him. Casey Thompson, too. This might have been Casey Thompson's last game. It might have been Trey's as well, but I don't think Casey's coming back next year. He was 20 of 30 for 278 yards and 3 TDs. By far his best game of the year when it mattered the most. This was Nebraska's bowl game. This is the team those players hated the most. This was the team that staff hates the most. And this is a team who we as fans hate the most. So thank you, Mickey. Thank you, the entire coaching staff. Thank you, Trey, Casey. Thank you, the O-line, who had a much better day today than we've seen in the past. Thank you to the defense. Thank you to everybody who gave us a win and something to be proud of, something to brag about, and something to give us a little bit more excitement heading into this long 8-9 month stretch of no football, because it is going to be a long 9 months. I promise you that. But it's going to be fulfilling at the end, because we now have hope. We now have opportunity to make changes, to build that new culture, and I just feel good. So I'm going to get to chat, but yeah, I had to get that out. I've been sitting on my couch all day today watching this game. Obviously, I had a little bit of stress, but I knew I had something in my gut telling me that this was a game they would win. They were playing another weak team in Iowa, another weak team in the Big Ten West, another team they are supposed to beat. Whew, taking a breath. Evan, thank you for the 10. Man, that was the most invested I've been in a Nebraska game in a long time. Casey had his best game in our uniform today. That's a fact. Casey showed out, and the team never stopped fighting. This one was sweet. GBR forever. This one was sweet, and it was especially sweet for Casey because even when I thought things were going to look a little bleak for him, I didn't know if he'd come back in. He was limping off the field. I think in the early third quarter, he still figured out a way to come back in and get it done. He had to throw it at the end, even though it looked like Mark Whipple wasn't going to let him. Real quick, I got to talk about that. I was extremely frustrated. I know you had to be frustrated if I was. Nebraska had a chance to try and seal the game, and they decided to run it twice, 3 times with Anthony Grant, who all day was being stopped. I'm not sure how many yards he was averaging, but not many. Okay, actually I do. He was averaging like negative half yard a carry. It made no sense to give him the ball in that circumstance when you had Trey, who was absolutely electric, lighting it up. You had Oliver Martin beating his man, who is, I think, a true freshman playing for an injured corner. You had Marcus Washington, who was playing well, as he always does. At that point, Whipple, it just felt like you had to go all gas. You had to drive in. Finish the way you got here, right? We got to 17-0 by throwing the ball. Let's finish strong. If we're all going to tell you all season we want to see more run plays and you're going to put your middle finger to Nebraska fans and say that's not how we do it in my offense, then at least drive it home and finish like that. That was stressful, but you guys still figured out how to win, so I'm not going to sweat it too much, but I was confused about those run plays at the end there by Whipple. Ah, man. Evan, also, I don't care if it was ugly and we almost blew it. Beating Iowa is always sweet. GBR. It feels better because all of the hate that comes from Iowa fans, whenever Nebraska's down terribly, and Iowa's, at their best, winning 9 games, 10 games, and they beat Nebraska, and they don't beat Nebraska. Nebraska beats themselves, and they end up winning the game by 3 points. That's realistically what happens, or 7 points or whatever, always less than 1 score. Iowa fans make sure to rub it in your face as much as possible. For no reason. Iowa, you're at your peak, and you're barely escaping with wins over bottom-feeder Nebraska teams. Today, it's reversed. Today, when Iowa felt like they had a chance, we got to rub it in. And I hope all of you who know Iowa fans are rubbing it in, because I'm going to. Any Iowa person who's texted me disrespect or said anything about this team, I finally have some ammo and something to say, because it feels good to take them away from their one moment to get back to the Big Ten championship. And actually, you're welcome, Iowa fans, for saving you the embarrassment, for keeping your ass at home, because you do not belong there. You and I both know it. You're welcome. You're welcome. You get to be a little bit happier because you don't have to wake up to another L from Michigan or Ohio State. It's a good day. Alan, thanks for becoming a member of the channel. Thank you for all the members who are here. Going for Gold 85, thank you for the $5 super chat. We won the damn game. That's all that matters till tomorrow. Let's enjoy it. That's how I feel. We'll talk a little bit about the coaching stuff. I know you guys are really interested in that and invested in it. We've been talking about it for a long time. So we're going to get to it, but I really want to soak in and embrace this win, talk about it, because it's meaningful. It matters. This isn't a win over Maryland. A Maryland win even would be good at this point, but this is Heroes Game trophy, rivalry game. We snapped the streak. we're finally back to, I would say, positive momentum. We knew we could beat this team, but it's good that we finally did because it gives us as fans hope that there is greener grass ahead, that we will be better. Even when we're at our worst, we can still beat teams in the Big Ten West. We can still beat Kirk Ferentz, even when we're at our worst. So imagine when we're just a little bit better. How's that going to look? These 7-point wins turn to 10-point wins over Iowa. Trigger Trevin, thank you for the $5. For someone who lives in Iowa, this means so much. I can now fall asleep peacefully. Dude, that's how I feel tonight. I'll be sleeping nice. Crypto Badger was texting me during the game. You know, let me tell you what Crypto Badger said during the game. He said, this is fucking insane. I said, I'm sweating hard. The reason he had said that was because Nebraska was about to get the ball back. I believe they were up 7, and there was 3.5 minutes left in the game. So my response was, we need Whipple to get the right plays in, insinuating he needs to pass. I said, no shitty run calls that just give Iowa the ball back. And then after 2 or 3 runs and we get to 3rd and I think 17, he said, you mean like that? And that was exactly what I meant. And it was painful. And I felt like, geez, Crypto Badger means so much to this channel and so much to me. I want him to have a win. You know, I want him to have a shot to see what it's like for Nebraska to beat Iowa because he hasn't seen it in 7 years. Neither have I or any of you. But I wanted them to win for Crypto Badger just as much as I wanted them to win for me. So the Badger, thank you for being here. And I'm glad you got to feel that and experience that with us. And thank you for the $20. And yeah, it is great that we finished off strong and we're going to get this momentum because I'm telling you, momentum means a lot going into the offseason. It gives fans hope, obviously for the channel. It gives us a lot more positivity because when you have people who are coming to the channel who believe there's something, you know, better at the other end, they're going to be more invested into what I actually have to say. They're going to be commenting more and then the channel is just more fun. So yeah, it would have been harder for me to make content in the offseason if we didn't win. So thank you, team. Brian, thank you for the $20 super chat. My man, it's good to stomp Iowa's butt into the dirt. See, we're all in agreement. We love beating Iowa. Galactus, thanks for the 10. Iowa got exposed today. We did them a favor. That's a fact, just like I said a minute ago. Even though they'll never thank us for it. Could you imagine what would have happened to them in Indy? Yeah, they would have gotten stomped. They would have gotten clobbered. However, I will say this. We got to talk about one positive for Iowa. Alex Padilla is night and day better than Spencer Petras. Alex Padilla was the equivalent to, what was that dude's name from Minnesota? I think he wore the same number. He's number 8 at Minnesota. Anton or something, whatever his name is. The guy Padilla could actually throw. He could move. It felt like he made logical decisions for the most part. He had a couple where they were questionable throws. One obviously got picked off at the end there by Kolerovic. Congrats, Kolerovic. That was a big play for him, and I think he's done after this year. But Padilla gave Iowa a chance. Petras was a joke. Petras has been a joke, and anyone who says he hasn't been, if any Iowa fans try to defend him, you just don't like offense. You don't like scoring. Iowa has thrived this year because their defense got Petras in position to score on short fields or just get field goals. So it made Petras as a quarterback look better. But in reality, he wasn't the guy who was going to make game-winning drives or complete a 75-yard drive ever. But Padilla gives you hope. So there's the one positive I have to say about Iowa off that. Ben, thank you for the $5. Last time Nebraska beat Iowa, I was in middle school. After so many heartbreakers, this feels good. It's crazy to think, how did we come this far to where we lose to a team who's not even... It's not like Iowa's Ohio State or Michigan. It's just, why are we losing to them so often? That team today was the same team we play against every year. It's not like Iowa had any more firepower any of these other years than they had this year. I guess you can say their number 1 tight end was out, and their fullback was out, and their starting quarterback went down early, who, like I said, it was actually a good thing he went out for them because the backup gave him a chance. We should be beating teams like this consistently, and this next coach, I hope, understands that. I hope believes it. I hope instills it into this team. There's a lot to talk about regarding the future, and we'll have time for that. I want to refrain, though, because I don't want to get too off topic. I want to enjoy today, enjoy this win right now, in this moment, and get excited about the future in a minute. Right now, we got to enjoy this win. Zach, thank you for the $10. Says he loves the toxic Connor. Man, I'm not trying to be toxic. I'm just trying to keep it real and trying to make sure you guys feel the right energy. Because, listen, this is a day to be excited. This is a day to rejoice and a day to feel positive because it's been a long season. It's been a long 12 weeks, a long just like it's been a debacle on every front, right? You had multiple coaches get fired. You've had players hit the portal. You've had the culture feel like it was tanking. You didn't know what was going to happen with this next coaching hire. You didn't know if coaches would want to come to Nebraska. It just felt like we kept unraveling, and it was ugly. It felt like we are at the bottom as a program. We're as low as it gets, right? I would hope it couldn't get any lower for a program than this. So to finally get something out of it at the end of the season, at least. Makes me feel good. Press Alpha, thanks for the $5. Exactly why no doormat Campbell. Fudge losing, fudge bad coaches, fudge this curse, fudge the detractors and mediocrity. Yes, no more mediocrity. We don't accept that. We don't want that. That's not what I stand for, so it's not what I want my football team to stand for. And Matt Campbell, to be fair, he's beaten Iowa more than Nebraska's beaten Iowa. So in recent history. But we're not going to get Matt Campbell, so we don't got to worry about that. Nathaniel, thank you for the $5. Bo Pelini 8-year curse he put on us might be over. This might have been what it took to get over that curse. I don't know. I don't know if I believe in the curses, but I do know that winning them broke it up. Winning this game broke it up. And maybe if there was a curse, it's gone. Always Aviation, thank you for the $2. I messaged you about Matt Rhule thoughts. We'll talk about Matt Rhule in a minute. I promise you. We'll get there. I'll make sure I got all the super chats. I did not. There's more. I'm getting caught up. Also, thank you guys all for being here with me. It's way more fun to do these streams when I brought all of you guys. And I'm going to read all the other chats. I'm just trying to make sure I knock out the super chats real quick. Garrison calling Iowa little brother, pretty hilarious because it's true. They are the little brother. Eagle Livewire with the 50. Thank you for the 50. We appreciate the support a ton over here. GBR, thank you for being a member too. Let's see here. Nebraska Edits, thank you for the 20. Do you think Casey will stay? And if not, who do you think our QB will be? I think Casey has other plans. I think Casey wants to play in the NFL, but I think that Casey's also realistic, and I'm not sure he wants to go and get another master's at Nebraska to play one more season. Who knows? I would, if I had to bet on it, I would say Casey doesn't return, and I would say that Nebraska goes to the transfer portal for their next quarterback. That's just my guess, but who knows? It's going to depend on what type of offense this next coordinator wants to run. I'm assuming it's going to be an RPO, so Casey technically would fit in there, but we'll see. Who knows? I think there's always a chance because Mickey's there and they have a really strong relationship. But Casey's like 25 years old. He already graduated twice from Texas and now from Nebraska. So it's a lot to commit to say, I'm going to come back as a 25-year-old quarterback to Nebraska to play one more year, and I'm doing all this extra schooling just to do it. He's already a smart guy. He already is going to be successful in pretty much whatever he does business-wise. So we'll see. I'm not sure. I would say probably not. Blue the Boss Boston, thank you for the $5. A win feels great, but a blowout would have been sweeter. I mean, that was as blowout as you get. It's always going to be tough to maintain that level through an entire game. So I can't complain that we only won by 7. It's hard, you know. We dominated for what, 3 quarters? At some point, guys get worn out. At some point, the coaches try to pull back because, like Whipple and Mickey did, because they want to start to burn clock and they want to make sure they don't give the game away. You don't want to, it's almost like gambling. You don't want to win $50 here, win $75 here, win 100 here, and then take all your winnings and throw it on the big one and then lose the big one and now you're back to 0, right? Think of it that way. Nebraska's taken shots downfield repeatedly. Eventually, you're going to turn it over. That's just typically the name of the game. Why risk the turnover and giving Iowa a great spot in the field, right? Give them the 50-yard line, for example, and let them drive on the short field. That's a recipe for disaster. And yeah, at the same time, you can say, well, they ran the ball a bunch. Well, at least they milked the clock. They gave it back to Iowa, but they gave them longer fields to work with. So it's hard for me to complain about it. I'm just appreciative of a 7-point win. Ardwin, thank you for the $2. A punt on 4th and 1 with 2 minutes left infuriated me. So it was frustrating. I wanted to see Trey get a shot, but that's the gambler in me. The common sense guy in me knew we had to punt. You got to think of it this way. You've got their backup quarterback. How many game-winning drives has he led like that? I'm going to guess not many. I'm going to guess 0. So that's already going to be tough for him. Then you've got Trey Palmer, who he had some big plays, right? But he's electric downfield. He's more of an average receiver in the short game. He's like everybody else, okay? So why take the shot when the odds of you converting on that might be 50%? Let's just give the defense, who the odds might be 70% that they stop Iowa, give them their shot to stop them. The chances go up, and I feel like that was the right call, and as we know, it ended up being the right call. They were on their own side of the 40, right? I think Nebraska was on their own 35 or own 40, something like that. So it made sense. It just made too much sense. Joey, thanks for the 5. Iowa has bad corn and makes sick kids watch their crappy football. That's hilarious. You're not wrong. That's funny. So glad Nebraska found a way. The smiles on the players' faces were infectious. It feels good. It's great for these players, man. I saw so many guys. They all went live after the game. I saw them all on TV with the Heroes Game trophy. They're carrying that around, so they're all pumped because just like we felt beat down and we felt terrible about this year, how do you think they felt? They're just inundated by the constant negativity and their friends talking shit and kids at school not wanting to support and obviously people asking questions, and they see everything on social media. So I'm happy for them that they were able to get something out of this season, because a lot of these guys were transfers in who came in thinking this would be a, good opportunity for them to win some games. And we saw how things turned out, but we've always got next season, so we'll see how that one goes. At least they ended positive. Blaine, thank you for the $5. And we're almost caught up on the super chat, guys. We're almost caught up. Brian, thank you for the $10. Can I get a Go Big Red? I would give a Go Big Red, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to get a response. You guys might all respond, but if I said it just wouldn't have the same effect because I'd have to double say it, which just doesn't make sense. But everybody else in the chat, you know what? Fuck that. Chat's going to respond. Go Big Red! And now chat's going to respond. I already know. Chat's loyal like that. Chat's loyal like that. Public's Eye Outdoors, thank you for the $5 super chat. I was getting pissed when they put Grant back in over Rahmir Johnson at the end. Who do you think did better? So I don't think this is an opinion question. I think we just look at the facts. Typically, I like to put fact over opinion. That's just the type of person I am. The fact is, today, Rahmir Johnson had 12 carries for 50. Let me check. Rahmir Johnson had 12 carries for 52 yards. Anthony Grant had 14 carries for 6 yards. To be fair, Iowa's defense keyed on Anthony Grant running the ball. They keyed on Rahmir Johnson being a receiving back, and they haven't seen him much this year, so they assumed he would be, obviously, not as effective in the ground game, and therefore probably not someone Nebraska would go to as often as they did. Rahmir Johnson was awesome today. I don't know, did he have any catches? Let me check that too. Rahmir did not have any catches. I'm not even sure he had a target. He was just a running back today. He had a 15-yard run. That was fantastic. And as much as I've said it is what it is with Rahmir, he's just not as talented as some of these other backs on the roster. That guy has continued to prove he is really talented. And he at least deserves more reps. That's my opinion on him. I'm glad that they gave it to him today when he was hot and didn't pull him out. He made one mistake. And it was kind of like the Adrian Martinez Michigan mistake last year. He dropped the ball when the play technically wasn't dead. He fell on top of somebody else. He got a little bit loose with his arm, and it popped out into the Iowa defender who took it away. And that obviously allowed Iowa to get into a position where they could score again, which could have very well been detrimental to this entire game. So that one part wasn't good. And maybe that's a point of emphasis that Mickey or Mark Whipple would say makes him, or not them, it'd be Applewhite, who would say he's not the starting guy or not someone who gets more opportunities. I don't know. But today, from what we saw in the run game, he's electric. He's very quick. He has a fast break. Every time he touched the ball, it felt like you'd see something positive. And for the most part, you did. He moved well up and down the field, goes north and south, whereas Grant would try and go east and west a lot. It took him, I don't know how many plays. It felt like every play towards the end was east and west, and it took him at least 6 steps to realize, I need to cut it back up. And at that point, when you're 6 steps to the left or to the right, and you're strung out with 2 defensive guys who are ready to make or watch you make a cut right in front of them, you're not going to get very far. And yeah, he didn't. That's why he had a negative average. He had 0.5 yards a carry or whatever it was. It was tough, but I wouldn't say I was pissed off about it. You got to give both those running backs a chance and let them stay fresh. Lucky, thank you for the $5 super chat. Denon, should have been. Surprised you weren't. Thanks for being a member. Why weren't you a member, Denon? Everyone in the chat needs to know. Kevin, thank you for the 20. Thanks, Mickey. That dude's a soldier. Mickey, man, Mickey deserves a lot of praise because he didn't have to come to Nebraska. I'm basically quoting what he said in his press conference. He had the opportunity to go anywhere he wanted after LSU. He had the opportunity to obviously go to a school that would win, a school who had a better quarterback situation, a school who had a more secure head coaching position, a school who had a better offensive line, and just a more productive offense in general. A school where he could have taken a guy like Trey Palmer and potentially, like TCU, been on a team who went to the playoff, let's say. He opted to come to Nebraska, where he's from. He opted to go back to his roots, and I don't know, it all worked out for him because not only has Mickey Joseph made more money, because he has made a lot of money being the receivers coach at Nebraska and now the interim head coach, but Mickey Joseph's resume got some serious stock this year. He's now got, 9 games as a head coach with 3 wins. He went 3-6, and he inherited a mess, okay? So that's very positive. Then, whatever new head coach comes in, to keep Mickey Joseph, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money. On top of that, Mickey Joseph will now be starting to get groomed for a head coaching job, which means they're going to start to give him more promotions. They're going to start to give him more responsibilities, and they're going to start to build his resume. So in the case that this next head coach leaves, Mickey Joseph could potentially be promoted to our head coach. Or in the case that Mickey ends up being so good or ready to take the next step in life, a bigger school can come in and give him a job. So congrats, Mickey, for everything, because not only did you win today and beat a couple other Big Ten teams, which is a huge feat as a guy who's never been a head coach, a guy who's never been a coordinator in college, but now your resume is looking strong and your future is looking damn bright. So yeah, thanks Mickey, for being here. Eric, thanks for the $5. Nebraska rules once again. Hilarious comment. Hilarious. I like that. It's always the play on words. You guys are tricky. I got to expect it. Let's see here. I don't want to miss any super chats. You guys have been firing them off, and I've just been delayed. Tater, thanks for the $5. I'm in Iowa now with a household of Iowa fans. I can't even celebrate. Man, what? You better go grab a bottle of champagne and just spray that shit all over the kitchen. You could wipe it up yourself, but bro, come on. Andrew, thank you for the $5. You guys responded to that Go Big Red pretty good. I didn't even get down to the part of the chat when I yelled it. Andrew, thanks for the $2. 700 people in here and only 150 likes. Let's go. It does help if you like the video. I will say that. If you like the video, it helps more people to find it. And if more people can find it, then we grow more. I can make more content. I can get better guests on. I mean, at the end of the day, liking the video helps you as much as it helps me, because this isn't just my channel. This is our channel. This is all of us together. It's a collaborative effort. Like I said, I wouldn't be here on live without you here. Let's keep it real. So yeah, like it for us. Don't like it for me. Like it for you. Let's see here. Caden, thank you for the $2. I just love to see this. Mickey deserves this. GBR. Mickey does deserve it. Mickey's been through a lot. He's the freaking man. Let's see here. I think we're down to our last one. Meme. Thank you for the $5. Hopefully this is the start of the rise of the program again, and we can all say we're here at rock bottom. You know, Nebraska fans are the best fans in the country, right? Nebraska fans have the highest tolerance of any fan in the country. People will give you these BS arguments, and they will put things on Twitter and photos up showing the game 30, 40 minutes before kickoff, and it's, let's say, 50% filled in a portion of the stadium. And the comment will be, Nebraska doesn't have real sellouts, fake sellout streak, blah, 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 all this BS, right? The reality is, Nebraska fans show out more than any fan base in the country. Nebraska fans have given me more views than any beaten down school in the country. Go find me another program that's in the dirt, the way that we're in the dirt, who has a YouTube channel like mine, a fan-based YouTube channel, with as much engagement as we do, as much positivity as we do. There's a Michigan channel. Just keep this in perspective. There's a Michigan channel. I can't remember the guy's name. He's had the channel longer than I've had Corn Crazed. Michigan has a way larger fan base than Nebraska has. And the guy has 5,000 more subscribers than we do. How does that make sense? I'll tell you how it makes sense. We have the most ride or die, the most loyal, the best, the most loving, the most tolerant. Overall, the number one fan base in college football, one of the top fan bases in sports. I promise you that. There is no debating it. It is bullshit when people try to fight with me on that. What are you going to argue? Taking pictures of the stands 40 minutes before the game, hoping to say, well, it's not a real sellout? Nebraska fans are legit. They are real, they ride or die, and we are all here from rock bottom. We've all felt this, we've all embraced it, we've all dealt with it, and we've accepted it. The most important thing is we're going to get through it together. We're going to get through it and come out so damn strong. I promise you that. I don't care who this next head coach is, and maybe this is the transition into this head coach rumor talk. No matter who this next head coach is, our situation going forward is going to be better than our situation of the past. And I can tell you why I'm so confident in that. I don't believe from the top that we had the right administration who wanted to win as much as we wanted to win, who wanted this program to succeed as much as we wanted it to succeed. I believe that they made the choices and decisions that they felt were right, but I don't believe that they knew what was right for us, for our program. And I think now you have a guy like Trev Alberts who understands that as important as it is to have a good head coach who is good at overall being a good face of the program, it's more important to have a guy who's a good face of the program, but a guy who can also win games. Because at this point in our legacy, in the history of Nebraska football, if you look back 100 years from now, this will be the most crucial point in this 200-year span. Because a bad hire now, a safe hire now, the wrong hire now, will crumble what we had built up, at least. From 1960 to the early 2000s, the beast that Nebraska was has diminished. There are still remnants. There are still little bits and pieces, and we can pick those pieces up and rebuild still. But it will take the right coach. It will take a guy who understands the X's and O's as much as he understands culture building, who understands what he has at Nebraska, what he needs to get back to. I do believe, and for everyone who's asked me, that Matt Rhule would be able to bring us back to where we wanted to get to. I am not going to make a crazy prediction and say that Matt Rhule is a national championship contending coach. I am not going to tell you I think Matt Rhule can consistently win 10 games at Nebraska or 11 games at Nebraska and get us to a playoff. What I will say is I do believe he has the right vision, he has the right goals, he has the right structure, he would build the right coaching staff, he has the moral values, and he has what it takes to win in the Big Ten. If you look at his past, it's a fact. He has what it takes to win. At this point in the history, like I was talking about before, Nebraska doesn't need to be a national champion. Nebraska doesn't need to be a playoff contender. Nebraska just needs to win. Nebraska needs to win more than they lose, and we need to build back up. This is step one in the process. All right, I'm not unrealistic. I understand the challenges that are at Nebraska, the challenges that come in recruiting, the challenges that come for a coach who's got to rebuild an entire culture. And I've accepted that fact. We are not USC. We are not Alabama. We are not Ohio State. Because like I said, this previous staff, I don't think had the right agenda. I don't think they had the right vision. But I do believe with my full heart that Trev Alberts knows what it's going to take. And because you have the right leadership at the top, he will put the right management leadership in with the head coach. And from there, we'll be able to build on top of what we already have. I know there's not much there. It's like an empty basement. It's a black hole. But you got to start somewhere. You've got to put the framework down. And from there, we can start talking about consistent 10-win seasons. And from there, we can start talking about how do we win playoff games. But right now, let's just get back to being a legitimate football team. Let's get back to being a team who beats the teams we're supposed to beat, like Iowa, Illinois, Purdue, and competes with the teams like Ohio State, Michigan, and the other blue bloods who Nebraska's used to competing with every year, every time they play them. It will take time, like I said. But I do believe Matt Rhule would give us that hope, would give us that chance, would be a great fit at Nebraska. And I 100% have faith in Trev Alberts. That's where this all starts, right? I believe in that guy. And people have given me all these BS excuses about why Trev Alberts isn't the right AD, why he's not a good guy. I don't care. Everything Trev Alberts stands for in his job at Nebraska and every move he has made is the way I would have done it. It's probably the way you would have done it if you were given that responsibility. It's a tough job, and he's figuring it out. So props to Trev Alberts. As important as Mickey Joseph has been, there's one guy who I think helped get him here. There's one guy who flipped the switch from Scott Frost to Mickey Joseph, and I believe that transition was the first step to rebuilding what will make Nebraska great. This year could have been a complete wash. This year could have been flushed. We could have won 1 game, 3 games, whatever, even 4. But we wouldn't have been able to build on top of it without a coach like Mickey Joseph. If you put Eric Shenander in charge, how do you think this season would have played out? And how do you think that would have made next season any better? I would argue that it wouldn't. We now have pieces in place. We now know what it looks like to win at Nebraska. We now understand some of the challenges because Mickey Joseph has gone through them, and he is a good coach. And without Trev making that right decision, where's Nebraska at now in this process? If we have a 10-step plan over the next 3 years to getting back to being a 9 or 10 win team, we might have just knocked out step 1 before our next head coach even got here, because we've had a guy like Mickey Joseph come in, make his evaluation, and start to do what he could to rebuild. Start to get guys like Trey Palmer in the program. Start to recruit guys like Malachi Coleman and some of these other Nebraska kids who belong here, who should be here, who were neglected by the previous head coach, right? Trev Alberts has done an amazing job so far. And if I was going to sit here and argue with you or complain that I didn't like his hire as the next head coach, that would be contradictory to what I actually believe about the guy. This isn't Sean Eichhorst or Bill Moose. This isn't a guy who comes in and takes his job lightheartedly and he thinks, oh yeah, it's all good, let's just make sure we've got a coach who whatever. This is a guy who wants to win as bad as we do. This is a guy who understands how important we are in the history of Nebraska football to make the right decision, to make the right change, and to start to build. That's how I feel about this situation. I hope that gave you guys an idea. We'll talk more about everything. I just want to give you a baseline to give you an understanding of where I sit, where my head's at. And this all stemmed from Meme's comment about being at rock bottom. Wow, that was a tangent. Thanks for being here, everybody. We've still got 700 people on this live stream. So if you're one of them, shout out to you. CJ, thank you for the $10. Joined late. What's your opinion with the Rhule post from ESPN? We'll talk about that more. We'll talk about more on what I think is actually going to happen, what I think the truth is, and all that. We'll talk about that in just 1 minute. Joel, thank you for the $5. Ari says, I'm embarrassed how bad our offensive strategy has been for the past decade. It's interesting, Ari. As a Nebraska fan, I feel for you. Because I think Nebraska and Iowa have gone through some similar things. I think Nebraska the past 2 years has, past 4 years, has desperately needed a change in coordinator, has desperately needed somebody to come spice things up, somebody to put a twist on it and let Scott Frost know this is what you got to do to win in the Big Ten, right? Scott Frost had a great offensive mind to some degree, but he wasn't a closer. He didn't have what it took to figure out how to put the nail in the coffin on drives. He was terrible in the red zone. His offenses never scored, right? They would score, but they couldn't score when it mattered the most, when the pressure was on. Adrian Martinez at times looked flat. There were a lot of issues, is my point. And if he would have had let's say a real offensive coordinator in and not just an assistant coach to help him write down plays, I think Nebraska's offense would have thrived to a whole nother level. Okay. Iowa, as a Nebraska fan, I'm sorry. I don't know why the nepotism has continued. I don't understand why people say this is the way Iowa plays football and that's how they're going to... What are you talking about? Iowa has recruited some of the best receivers and tight ends from the state of Nebraska. NFL-level players. They have an offensive line that consistently goes to the NFL. Every position on the line, the left tackle, the right guard, the center, every position has been in the NFL from Iowa in the last 20 years. That offense has the makings and the potential to be great. And Iowa is settling for mediocrity. It's a shame, in my opinion. I laugh at it as a Nebraska fan because it's like, wow, these guys are such idiots. They don't even realize that they're on the brink of being good, and they're not even scratching the surface for their potential. What is Iowa doing accepting and being a 9-win team every year when they could be a 12-win team? It makes no sense to me. So Ari, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you and for your head coach not making decisions that I think would be better for Iowa. Joel, thank you for the $5. GBR to you too, brother. Brian, thanks for the 5. I think this is your second super chat. Smash the like button. This is the best Husker football coverage on YouTube. You know, I like to think that it is because I'm obsessed with Nebraska football and I do a lot of research. So if you say it is, I'll believe it is. But only because you said it. Blaine, thank you for the $2. D-line played well. They were pissed off today. Man, whole team was pissed off. Let me show you this tweet. Where's the tweet? Where's the tweet? Here it is. This is from my cousin Jansen. He was on the field today taking photos. He works for Rivals. He had some really good pictures. He said, this is after the game, Turner Corcoran just turned to the Iowa fans and pointed to Trey Palmer coming back to the bench and said, he woke up pissed off. I love that because Trey did wake up pissed off. Trey said it himself. He woke up pissed off. I don't know how to see my tweets here. Otherwise, I'd show you. Whatever. Point is, Trey said he woke up pissed off. Said he woke up pissed off last week. And he had, I think, 2 touchdowns last week. So Trey needs to keep being pissed off. Apparently, pissed off equals wins. Jennifer, thank you for becoming a member. Helps me to find your comments easier. Denon with the F Iowa. Denon, just so you guys know, has spent a lot of time in Iowa, so he has feelings towards their football team. Thank you for the $50, Denon. Denon obviously helps me with all the live streaming and content. Helped me set up my mic. Denon's awesome. So Denon, thank you for the 50. Joey, thank you for the 5. House full of Iowa fans. Sounds like an opportunity to accidentally have Hail Varsity start playing on the phone. Hilarious. That is a good opportunity. I would fire up the press conference with Mickey Joseph for him. Thank you for the 5, Joey. Oh, I got one from Andrew. Wait. Kevin, thank you for becoming a member. Andrew said 700 people in here and only 250 likes. The math doesn't add up. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to like it, I appreciate it. It helps all of us because getting more views, getting more subscribers will help me to get better guests for our interviews. Nebraska Edits, thanks for the 5. Think all the Rhule stuff could all just be smoke to the fire just to have Urban walk up on Monday. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm not too sure. So, my thoughts on the Rhule situation. Let me pull this up for you guys. Let me clear this away. Here's what you got to remember. Matt Rhule was fired in October. This article I've got pulled up here is from October 12th. I think it's the day after Matt Rhule was fired, okay? Before Matt Rhule was fired, when Matt Rhule was still the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, the betting odds for Nebraska's next head coach came out. Here's what they said. Betting odds, Nebraska head coach, bang. Here's what it was. This is back September 13th, I believe 2 days after Frost was fired. You had Campbell at plus 400, Joseph at plus 450. And then it doesn't show here on this one, but I did see it somewhere else. At plus 1,500 was Matt Rhule. While he was still the head coach at the Panthers and had only had 2 games during the season. The fact that he was even on the board after Urban Meyer should have given us a sign that it was probably going to be Matt Rhule. And for a lot of us, we all assume Matt Rhule had a really good chance. Fast forward a month later, Matt Rhule gets fired. This was the opening odds from Vegas for where he would end up. It was either Wisconsin or Nebraska, Auburn, who still had their head coach at the time. And yeah, obviously, Nebraska, being the favorite, ended up being the school who now has the most smoke and now makes the most sense. One thing you've got to realize about Matt Rhule is his personality and temperament matches what you would expect from the Nebraska head coach and what you'd expect from Trev to go after. Trev wants to have a guy come in. He has said it before, and it is holding true now if this rumor is true, which I'm sure this rumor is true. He wants a guy who's not flashy, who fits the program, who knows what it'll take to build, and who can come in here and make Nebraska a better program, make them a tougher team, can win football games. Matt Rhule checks every box. It's just a fact. So, for everyone who's asked me, do you think it's going to be Matt Rhule? Is this a rumor? Whatever. I think the odds of it not being Matt Rhule at this point are less than 5%. It's got to be Matt Rhule. Nebraska confirmed had an interview or at least a meeting, Trev Alberts did specifically, with Lance Leipold. That meeting apparently was cut short, and Leipold ended up taking an extension from Kansas. So for whatever reason, there wasn't a match there. That was last week. So we're done with Leipold. Well, your only other three options who would seem to be realistic, because in my opinion, Urban Meyer's not realistic. The only three would be Rhule, Kleiman, and who was my other one I was thinking about? I'm so focused on Rhule, I don't even know who my other third was. It doesn't matter. The point is this. Oh, Fickle was my other option. It doesn't feel like there's enough smoke, there's enough conversation around any coach, except for Rhule, and it's been like that way for 3 weeks. Because of that, we know he's been talked to. We know there are negotiations, and if there are negotiations, it's probably going to come down to him getting hired. So that's just my opinion on it. And if you don't like it, I get it. It's easy to like the flashy hire. It's easy to get pumped up and excited for Urban Meyer or Lane Kiffin because they say all the right things, they have the recent history, and everything else that comes with that, right? But look at TCU. Look at Sonny Dykes. Look at all of the coaches from the NFL who have failed, come back and won, like a Nick Saban. I'm not comparing him to Nick Saban in any way, and he obviously didn't have a national championship before he left for the NFL. But the point is, it's okay with accepting that Nebraska is going after the right fit as opposed to going after the right name. I hope that makes sense. Scott Frost seemed to be the right fit, seems to be the right name. He was the 1,000% right hire. All right, it ended up working out perfectly that year. But it's not going to be like that every time we go after a coach. It's not going to be like that when Nebraska is a total rebuild, right? I think a lot of Nebraska fans, I'm going to include myself in this conversation as well. A lot of us view Nebraska in a certain way. Realistically, Nebraska is a Tier 2 program. They are a top 15 job in the country. It's hard to argue it. Anyone who does try to argue with it, refer them to my videos because I've broken down why Nebraska is a legit top 15. But here's the deal. To us, it feels like, well, if we're a top 15, we should be able to go and do what USC did last year. Poach another Blue Bloods head coach who's a star like Lincoln Riley. Or what LSU did, go and poach a national champion competing coach in Brian Kelly. But we're not at that level right now. A lot of coaches don't want to come to a place where they need to reset completely. They want to go somewhere where the pieces are in place and they just have to reorganize them and get them set up so that they can operate at the highest level. USC is a prime example of that. You could argue that Nebraska and USC have had similar records the last few years and that they were equally down bad in terms of win percentage. But in reality, USC was ready to be flipped in one season, and we've seen that this year. They're a potential playoff team if they can beat Notre Dame tomorrow. Same with LSU. Recent national champion. They had lost a ton of guys in the portal last season, but they were ready with their rebuild to go out and get a bunch of guys in the portal. They have a ton of money, ton of fan support, great facilities, and now you see that they're another team who's a potential playoff, even though I don't think they should be. Nebraska's just in a different spot. If Urban Meyer came to Nebraska, let's say, as an example, because he's the easiest example to use, if he chose to come to Nebraska when we're at the point we are currently, he would be, let's say, fighting for 8 wins next year. Urban Meyer doesn't need to accept that. Urban Meyer can wait for the Texas A&M job to open, or the Penn State job to open, or whatever other big-name job opens this year after a Blue Blood steals another coach. He can go somewhere where the culture's already not terrible, where the fan base still believes, where he can go where he can win, is my point, where he can win 10 opening season. He can win 10 right out the gate and not have to worry about, I'm going to have to go and hit the portal extremely hard, find an entirely new roster, completely get this offensive line back on track, the whole deal, right? That's the way I think I view it. That's the way I think it's hard to wrap our heads around. And it's the reason that a lot of people are trying to discount Matt Rhule. You can't discount Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule is a better option than Matt Campbell. There's no doubt about that. He has a higher ceiling. He showed us that with an 11-win season at Baylor. Now, people will try and say that Matt Rhule's a rebuilder. I've argued that. I said that he's not a rebuilder, he's a builder. Let me find this quote. This is from Ben Stevens. It says, Matt Rhule is the definition of a program builder. This is a fact. His first year at Temple, they went 2-10. His last 2 years, they had 10 wins both years. Now, he didn't rebuild that program because before he got there, they were winning 9 games, 10 games. At Baylor, his first year, they went 1-11. His last year, they won 11 games, and they played in the Big 12 title and a New Year's Six Bowl. Did they win that game? No, they didn't win that bowl game, I don't believe. The point is, and the reason he's not a rebuilder, the reason this is going to be a challenge for him, in my opinion, is because both of those programs were coming off peak success. Baylor had Art Briles. They had their scandal, but that scandal was a scandal that I think they said lost 40 players to the portal or whatever it was. But their roster returned plenty of depth. They had plenty of guys back on the starting, at least the 2 or 3s, and they had 13 of 22 starters total. And they ended up winning they ended up winning 7 games that year when they had the scandal, despite their coach getting fired, and they won their bowl game. So again, rebuilder, I wouldn't call him that, and I would say this is going to be his first quote-unquote rebuild. But in terms of building, yes, he can take a team from 0 and get them to 100. I don't know what this says about his first year at Nebraska if he is Nebraska's next head coach. Winning 2 games or winning 1 game doesn't sound fun. But hey, if that means that we win 10 games the next season, I'm all in. Whatever it takes. He knows what he's doing. He's proven that he knows what he's doing. Let me get back to chat. I know I get off on these tangents. A lot of super chats I've missed. Hang on. Kevin, thank you for becoming a member. I don't know if I told you that or not yet. Joel, thank you for the 5. So at the end of the Nebraska-Iowa game, the players went over to the stands. Casey and I don't remember who else it was, but a bunch of the players jumped into the stands and were handing the trophy back to guys, taking pictures with it and everything, which was awesome. In a year when we're not going to get to go to a bowl game, there's not much to celebrate. This was actually cool to celebrate. Casey in his presser said that he didn't even know there was a trophy until 15 minutes before the game, probably because he saw it on the sideline, which is hilarious. But it is good. We need to get trophies back in that trophy box. That trophy case cannot be empty when we try and go recruit. We need to show that we can do something. Get recruits excited. Show them what they play for. No wonder players didn't even know there's a trophy. They've never seen a trophy at Nebraska. The only trophies they've seen were from pre-2015. It's a joke. AJ, thank you for the $10. Few stumbles, but defense showed out today. Getting after that QB, and Palmer hit over 1,000 yards. Let's talk about Palmer real quick. And let's talk about... Thank you for the 10, by the way, AJ. I'm going to minimize your comment. I like this tweet. What is Keegan Johnson thinking watching Trey Palmer light up Iowa's defense? If you're not familiar, the brief is Keegan Johnson is from Nebraska. Dad played at Nebraska. Keegan opted to go to Iowa instead of Nebraska. And today, Keegan had to watch Trey Palmer light up Iowa's D. Keegan, I believe, is potentially in the same boat as a guy like Charlie Jones, who transferred out from Iowa last year to Purdue and ended up having a massive season at Purdue. I think 5 or 6 times as many yards as he had last season at Iowa. I wouldn't be surprised to see guys like Keegan Johnson leave Iowa if they weren't willing to make changes and throw the ball a little bit more. Maybe this quarterback they have now will give him more of an opportunity to throw it, and maybe Kirk Ferentz will tell his son, you've got to throw it more or we're done with you. I don't know. But yeah, it was hilarious to see this tweet. And then also, so Stanley Morgan, 1,004 yards receiving last year, or not last year, in 2018 when the record was last broken. And Palmer broke it today on a touchdown pass that put him up to 1,007 yards. He got to 1,020 something, I think, or 1,030. I don't know what the total number was. But the fact that he broke it was massive. For a guy who entered the transfer portal after he didn't play very much at LSU, trusted his coach, Mickey Joseph, came to an offense that was dead as a door, and figured out a way to get out there and have multiple games where he went for over 100. Congrats, Trey. That was a performance today. It's been a performance every time he steps on the field. There have been a few off weeks, but it was only an off week in the past because Trey got jammed up with bad quarterback play, bad offensive line play, bad play calling, and everything else that has gone into this rough season for Mark Whipple. I have one more thing to show you on Twitter, which I thought was cool. Ryan Held, former running backs coach at Nebraska. Really happy for the seniors at Nebraska. And it makes you think. First off, he's a classy guy. You know, a lot of these Nebraska coaches from this last staff who got fired last year are still rooting for most of the players on this team. They're rooting for all the players on this team. But I say most because there are a lot of new guys on this team who they don't know. But a guy like Ryan Held, for sure, watching this one on TV and hoping his guys win. Same with Eric Shenander. He coached all these players. They want to see them do well. Scott Frost, I'm going to guess the same thing. I don't know what Scott Frost is thinking watching Nebraska go out and beat Iowa today. He's probably happy about it. But it's just interesting to see other coaches voicing their support who obviously were fired from their positions. I'd love to see what Scott Frost had to say today. We'll obviously never know, but I would love to know what he thought watching that game, if he was as pumped up as we were. Denon, thank you for the 20. Said you got to super this to make sure everyone knows. My other account is a member. Now I'm a double member. Hilarious. There you go. Denon's a double member. Thank you for doubling down. Thank you for doubling down on your membership, Denon. And wait, I got more. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I'm so backed up on chat. There's a lot of super chats today, and I've had a lot to say. I know. I hope you don't mind me rambling and talking about all this stuff. I guess that's what you're here for anyway. Galactus, thank you for renewing your membership. Trev likes unsweetened oatmeal. Made my peace. Galactus isn't a fan of Trev. Give me your reasonings, Galactus. I gotta know why you're not a big fan of Trev. And Denon with another 10. I'm in Iowa visiting the old lady's family. Rub this in hard. Good, as you should. Also, don't forget, I hard called Rhule a month ago, Connor. Don't forget that. Let's see if my calls on OC and DC stand. Well, Denon, we're going to be live on Tuesday. You'll have your chance to remind people who your OC and DC calls were. But yes, guys, live stream on Tuesday with John Johnston from Corn Nation. I already set it up. It's going to be around 7:15 Nebraska time. So just to give you guys that little warm up, the little set your notification in your phone now. We'll be live on Tuesday. Also, I know I've told most people this, but if you haven't seen it yet, if you go to the merch store, corncraze.com/GBR, the discount code for 25% off anything on the site is GBR. I've got these stickers, which are fantastic. I sell a lot of stickers. People love stickers. So it comes in packs of 5. These are the sticker packs. You got the Lincoln Skyline with the Corn Craze text. You got the 402 like I'm wearing, the standard Corn Craze logo, and then you've got this one, which I put on my computer. It's a fantastic sticker. It's like $5 for a sticker pack, plus 25% off with the code GBR, and they ship for free. So if you want anything on the merch store is only going to be live through the next month, basically. So we've got hoodies, we've got some t-shirts left, and we've got the stickers, wristbands, socks, whatever you want. So 25% off, code GBR. Chance, thank you for the 10. Just joining the stream. Hyped up on a great win over Iowa and enjoying a cigar. I mean, isn't this the perfect day? Doesn't it feel 10,000 times better to win? Can't you just enjoy your night that much more when we do win? Less stress, less agony. Everything just feels a little softer and sweeter. A toast to the years to come. GBR, baby. Chance, I know you joined the stream just now. We talked about a lot of the game early on in the stream. I hope you go back and watch it. This has been a very fun stream for me because I've been optimistic. I've been positive. I felt like a weight's been lifted off of my shoulders, all of our shoulders, and it just feels lighter today. Not as much chest compression. I think that's the right way to say it. So I hope you get a chance to check out the stream from the beginning after we're done here. Brian, thank you for the 10. Head coach is a small percentage of why a team wins. The whole staff is involved, and Nebraska has a whole new football facility to staff. So, well, to be fair, I think a lot of the staff will be back next year. I think when I say staff, I mean support staff across the board. I don't mean just football staff, right? When we're talking about facility, I'm assuming you're talking about the entire facility staff. I think Nebraska has some pretty good staff in their facilities. That's, I would guess. In terms of the immediate staff, though, on the coaches front, yeah, we're going to get, 7 new guys in there? Maybe keep Mickey, maybe keep Bush. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. We'll have to see who Matt Rhule or whoever the new head coach is, what his relationships are currently, and who he wants to bring over. But that's a very key component to seeing where we're going to go next year. Those guys need to be good at recruiting. They're going to need to figure out how to get some guys up here to Nebraska, where I'm assuming most of them don't have any relationships, don't have any ties. So we've got a lot to learn in this next month. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got notifications on, because there will be a lot of content. We will be talking about the transfer portal. We'll be talking about every one of the assistant coaches who comes in, what their backgrounds are, what they bring to the table. So yeah, make sure you're watching the videos, because if you want to get the most up-to-date information, you want to get the realest, rawest information, you want to get the facts, I'm not going to bullshit you. I promise you that. That's the one thing you get when you come to Corn Crazed. I give you the truth. I break it down. I don't try and sugarcoat stuff. It's just, it is what it is, the reality, right? I'll give you an example of the reality. The other day, I said Nebraska was going to win this game in my Iowa preview. I also said Nebraska was going to go over 38 for the game total. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm just telling you the facts of what's going to happen. People in my comments tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm crazy. I am crazy. But I'm not wrong. Told you to bet it with me. Anyway, we won money today. That's the point. We won money. I always give you guys the facts. Mitch, thank you for the $2 super chat. Rhule can't beat a top 25 team. You know, Matt Rhule is at Baylor, who did lose a lot of guys. He had to rebuild, you know, he had to build his way. Not rebuild, I'm not going to use that word with him. He had to build his way. He was only there for 3 seasons, though. The Big 12 wasn't very good while he was there. He lost to a few big top 25 teams in the Big 12. But to be fair, at Temple, he did beat top 25 teams. He beat Navy. He beat Memphis. And he beat somebody else. I can't remember who. But the point is this. Baylor's not Nebraska. He couldn't recruit as well at Baylor as he will be able to at Nebraska. Well, I don't know what he'll be able to do as a recruiter, because his reputation isn't as a recruiter. But what I can say is his staff and him should be able to recruit better at Nebraska than they could at other places. So, assuming that to be true, I do think that Rhule can beat a top 25 team. And I do think he'll have more opportunities to beat top 25 teams, seeing as he plays in a tougher conference, and more of the teams he plays against will be ranked. Just a thought. But I don't even know if he's going to be the next head coach. That's just my thoughts on that comment. Steven, thank you for the $5 super chat. You've been a supporter forever. I appreciate you a ton. Husker Nation, I think this is James. James, thank you a ton. I met him last week at a bar in Omaha. Thank you for the 10. I would love to see Chris Kleiman here. Rhule rebuilt, no prevalent teams. Trev is a risk taker, but risking it on Rhule is a career ending for Trev. You know, I get wanting to see Kleiman over Rhule. Totally understand it. But to be fair, Rhule is a winner. At the end of the day, he builds teams up and wins in 2-3 years. When we talk about Rhule being a risk, I would definitely argue that. I would say he's a much safer play than a lot of other coaches, right? A lot of the coaches who Nebraska could go out and get would be risks, in my opinion. As much as I hate to say it, Deion Sanders would be a risk. Lane Kiffin would be a risk. Matt Rhule? Not so much. And let me explain. Deion Sanders, although I do think he would do well at Nebraska, and I would bet money on him being a good fit, he's never coached against Big Ten teams. He's never built a Big Ten staff. And because of that, you don't know how that'll look when it comes down to the X's and O's, right? Lane Kiffin, another example. The guy fits in the SEC. He fits in the South. As a personality, a little flamboyant, a little crazy, right? Not sure that Lane fits the mold for the Big Ten. When he goes up and plays against the tough physical teams, could he get it done? I don't know. He's good against lighter, flashier, faster teams in the SEC who like to throw the ball more, who play defense that's more balanced as opposed to run heavy D. I just don't know if that's a safe play. The safe ones to me would be Kleiman, Rhule, Fickle. If you're Trev Alberts, you got to go safe. And so this hire makes sense. This hire made sense since they reported on it when he was still at the Panthers, and it makes sense today. And that's why I'm assuming all of these rumors are true. Let me see here. A lot of chats, guys. Oh, and if anyone wants to become a member, it's hard to do it on the iPhone. On the Android and on your computer, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And when you join, it costs like, I think $2 or $3. And then I can see you in the chat way easier if you join the channel. It makes it so I can respond to your comments quicker. On the regular videos, I don't respond to every comment because now there's too many. So if you want to get your comment responded to, I always prioritize members because I can filter them out and find them quickly and go and respond to all member comments first. So become a member by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button at the bottom of this video. If you're on an iPhone, it won't let you do it. You got to do it on an Android or on a computer. Nathan, thank you for the 5. In one of your last videos, you talked about Rhule never winning against any ranked teams. Oh, any teams with 8+ wins at Temple or Baylor. Are you worried about that in the Big Ten? Yeah, it's 100% a concern. So Matt Rhule has never beaten a team. Was that what it was? I did the research at the time. I don't remember off the top of my head. What this says from Nathan is Matt Rhule has never beaten a team that's won more than 8 games. That is concerning. He's played, basically what it says is he's played low-level competition and beaten up on them. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. It's tough. Not every coach on here is going to check off every single box, right? Urban Meyer does. But every coach outside of Urban Meyer is going to come with flaws. Matt Rhule is going to have some flaws. That's one of them. Do I think that should be a concern? I don't know, man. I think Nebraska has a higher potential to win games than Temple. I think they have a higher potential to win games than Baylor. They're a stronger program. They're a stronger brand. They should be able to recruit better talent. So, no, I wouldn't be concerned about it. I think that Matt Rhule's team, let's give it a Madden rating, right? At Baylor, his team was an 88 overall. They won 11 games. But at Nebraska, if he would have been able to get a little bit more talent and installed his same coaching philosophy and had better coaches, more money to work with for coaches, the better facility, everything that comes with the Nebraska job, his team might have been ranked a 92 overall, right? And in that circumstance, he probably would have beaten some of those 8-win teams. He probably would have beaten some of those ranked teams that he went up against. He probably would have beaten OU in the Big 12 championship. So no, not concerned about that. Nebraska is going to provide him more than any of those other schools could have or did. Husker Nation, thank you for the $5. Congrats on the biggest live stream. This is actually our 3rd biggest, I think. Our biggest one had over 1,000 people live. We had 1,000 people when Scott Frost got fired. And we had 800 or 900 for one of the wins against Indiana, which was a huge one. But this is still a massive live stream. 650 people is huge. Caden, thank you for being a member. Denon, what are you doing, bro? Thank you for the 50. I appreciate you a ton. I'm drunk. Nebraska beat Iowa. I won a lot of money. That's what I like to hear. I love you and the Corn Craze Army. Let's go. See, Denon's coming with the energy I like. The positivity, the ride or die. Ever since someone said this was the Corn Craze Army, you know what? I believed it. This is the Corn Craze Army. Denon, thank you for the 5. And he says no one in the West wins more than 8. That's hilarious. That's true. So we can technically beat everybody in the West, given Matt Rhule's history. So yeah, I'll take it. Dion says there was never a perfect hire. Honestly, couldn't have said it better myself. I would argue that Urban Meyer would have been the perfect hire, but I couldn't have said it better myself. Cornhusker Corner, thank you for renewing your membership. Essentially, you said you loved Rhule. That makes sense. I mean, I think you've talked in the past about liking Rhule, so I understand that. And everyone has their reasons for liking him, and all of their reasons make sense. Sean says 7-5 next year. That's 3 more victory videos. Hey, 7-5 is better than 3-9 and 4-7 or 4-8. So I'll take it. And Nebraska just finally beat a team with 8 wins. Exactly. So, to be honest, I think we're going to be okay if we get Rhule. That's just my initial take. And I'm going to do more research on it. We'll have a reaction to Rhule getting hired video, totally separate to this. But just on the rumors, I'm confident and comfortable. FT Love, I'm not a fan of the hire period. Let me know why. Give me your arguments. I'd love to hear it. And more super chats, guys. Hang on. Travis says, not sure everyone will be happy with whoever it is. And that's another problem. We're never going to be able to get the perfect guy who fits for everybody. I do think that some of the recruits will leave, like I've seen some other comments here, some of the recruits might decommit. I was talking to one recruit yesterday who's an offensive lineman in Texas, and he said he was really hoping that Mickey got hired. He's had great conversations with Brian Applewhite, and he was hoping Mickey did get hired. And my point is he probably thought there was some hope for him to get hired. And if he doesn't, and if Applewhite's not here, there's a recruit you'll probably not get, even though he's on the edge of committing to Nebraska, right? That's just the name of the game. Hopefully Mickey's able to hang on to some of the guys, and we'll have to rebuild with some new people. But there are going to be a ton of recruits out there who do want to come play for this team next year. I can promise you that. The transfer portal is going to be nuts, and people are going to be looking for an opportunity. And Nebraska provides great opportunity with a new culture, a new coaching staff, and a lot of position openings. And, you know, people are going to come in and look at that as up for grabs, is my take. Joey, thank you for the $5. Denon, I'm drunk too, but I don't know if throwing your money around Connor makes us cuter to Connor. No homo. Hilarious. No, you do. You guys get a lot cuter than me when you throw money at me. It's like a stripper. That's what it is. You're more attractive when you throw money on me. Brian, thank you for the $10. Thanks for being a member. My best case scenario, Urban's hired as a head coach. Mickey stays as OC. Okay. Bo Pelini returns as the DC. Oh, you're going way left. Okay, I thought we were going to be realistic here. So Mickey will stay as like an associate head coach, a receivers coach, an offensive coordinator. He's never done that. I'm not sure that he's the guy who would ever want to do that. I think his path might be receivers coach, leading recruiter, transitioning over to head coach. He might skip that X's and O's part, that designing and scheming the offense. Maybe he can work as the passing game coordinator again. But yeah, I don't see him as the offensive coordinator. Bo Pelini is the DC. You know, I love Bo Pelini. I had a lot of love in my heart for him. Loved him when he was here. But Bo Pelini's defenses did us dirty. Bo Pelini hiring his brother and not flushing him out when the brother didn't have the best defenses in the Big Ten was a red flag. And Bo Pelini as a DC back in Nebraska would be concerning. So nope, I don't hope for any of that. But the best case scenario with Urban as the head coach probably would have been the best case scenario. I totally get it. Totally feel you. Husker Nation, thanks for the 10. I'm still sticking by Rhule being a bad choice. Kleiman would have been the best shot. Hey, I get it. And a lot of you were here when people were first mentioning Rhule as a rumored coach that could have gotten the job. And I wasn't on board because I felt like there were better guys out there. And as the season progressed and as reality set in and it didn't look like we could get anyone we wanted because we're not Ohio State, Alabama, or USC or LSU, the available options didn't look fantastic. There were a few good ones, but there was no one who was like, oh my God, that's the Scott Frost of this coaching class, right? Whereas in 2017, you could see Scott Frost from 1,000 miles away and say, get his ass to Lincoln, right? It's a tough situation, and no, not everyone's going to be happy, and I totally understand your concerns with it. But I do hope you know that he does bring a good energy. He does bring in good beliefs, I think. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos. I've watched him speak. He has a good heart, you know, he's a good guy. It just seems like he fits the mold from that end. And then his toughness and his desire to win, obviously, are two things that help me try and justify why he'll be good in the Big Ten. I think that's the right way to say it. Flezinator, thanks for being a member. Denon, thank you for another 50. You're going crazy today, brother. Investing in Connor, the future of this channel and the future of this football team. Hey, listen, I love to hear that because this channel, if we're a winning team, let me tell you right now, Corn Craze will be on freaking fire. We'll be doing 1,000 people per live stream. You know, this is the first year I decided to do live streams. I've never done this before, and I'm going to be honest. As hard as making videos was, because making these videos, editing them, writing them, it's not easy, okay? I challenge you to try it one time. It's really tough, and it can take hours. A lot of creative blocks. It's really tough when you suck, too, when there's nothing positive to talk about. I can tell you this. All my friends make jokes who have big sales jobs and stuff. They're like, I would love to hire you as a sales guy because you sell a shitty Nebraska team to 15,000 people every week, and I don't know how you do it. And as much as they're joking, it's true. I'm a salesman, right? I'm selling this terrible team. Going live is really hard. to talk at a camera for, I mean, we're going on an hour and 20 minutes right now. I've done these lives for up to 3 hours. So it's not hard. It's not easy. It's a hard job. But yeah, I think the future is going live and doing all these videos when we win. And then it's going to be a lot more fulfilling for me, a lot more fun for you. And overall, it's just going to be a way better engaging community. So yeah, thanks, Denon. Thanks for the support. Thanks for believing in me. Thanks for helping as much as you have so far, because you've done a lot for the channel. And everyone here knows that. Flesinator says, if Rhule, I think people that can't see bigger picture will be disappointed next year. He builds the right way. Will take 2 to 3 years to get to respectable in the trenches. Think we'll be good in year 2+. That's the thing. Even without hiring Rhule, if you hired anybody, it's going to take some time to rebuild this team. The offensive line has been rough. My guess is we're 2 years out from 9 wins. 2 years at least with any coach who comes in. So yeah, he's going to build the right way, like Flesinator says, and the trenches are going to be kind of the hot spot and the area they're going to have to figure out very quickly, because Nebraska needs to get back to being able to run the ball, and it feels like we're a couple years away from that. Denon, thank you for another 10. Your turn. I'll give all my winnings to Connor. He kept me positive about this team, and the joy I feel right now is priceless. Hey, I love it. And Joey fired me another 50. Dude, you guys are awesome. Thank you a ton for all the support. A ton. It goes a long way. It goes a long way to making me believe that I can keep running this channel for years to come. And Joey, I know you love the channel. I see you here all the time, so thank you a lot for being here. Darren says, test question. Who would you pick first in a mock draft between Palmer and Samari? Man, who has more upside? Those guys are both really good. The problem is I'm biased with Samari already being good in the NFL, improving it. Oof. I don't know, man. I'd let Chad answer that one. I'm not going to. I think right now I'm a 50-50. Al, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get better at talking to you guys on stream and be a better host for every video I make. And 5-star says, time to think of moving to Nebraska. Yeah, there's a 0% chance I'm moving to Nebraska. I went last week. My skin is still dry from that trip. My forehead's dry. I've been wearing more lotion I've ever worn in my life. My hands were bleeding. It's just not my thing. The cold weather is okay for a minute, but man, it was 20 degrees every day I was there. I think the last day was 40, but leading up to that, it was freezing outside. It was dry. I just don't thrive in that. Right now, it's at my house, it's 62 degrees outside. So, and it's 6 o'clock at night and it's dark. So yeah, I'm gonna pick my weather for now. More super chats I'm trying to get through. Brian, thank you for the 10. The future is call-ins, bro. So Brian, we're doing a call-in show on Tuesday with John Johnston. So we're doing it through Discord. So anyone who's here right now and wants to make sure they're on for those call-ins, click the link in the description now. All it says is Discord, and just click that Discord link. It'll send you straight into our Discord group. You can sign up, whatever. It's super easy. It's free. It's easy to navigate. On Tuesday when we do our stream, you guys can all call into that show to talk to me and John, and I'll answer all the calls. So, Brian, let's do a call-in show Tuesday. I like that idea. Tyson says, Rhule is a Mike Riley kind of hire. Not at all. Mike Riley was far worse than Matt Rhule. Mike Riley never had the level of success that Matt Rhule had. No, that's just couldn't be further from the truth. This is funny. Nick says, please don't tell Iowa how good they could be. Let them keep Ferentz. That's the problem, right? As painful it is for me as a Big Ten fan to watch Iowa continue to struggle, I'd rather them continue to struggle. I'd rather them keep Brian in that position, continue to keep running a weak offense and having the #1 defense in the country. It's not going to get you very far. It'll get you 9 wins as long as Nebraska sucks. But now that Illinois is getting better, now that Wisconsin's going to be back on the climb, Nebraska's going to be better, Iowa is about to take a turn down. I promise you. This comes in waves. Iowa is not a dominant force. They will get back to those 6, 7 win years. It's coming. Time will tell. Huskerhead said a little late to join. Just got done running up and down the street. That's hilarious. Antonio says not familiar with Rhule. How's his recruiting? He's made some comments about not wanting to go too far out to recruit. I don't want to get too deep into it. We'll talk about that if he actually does get hired as the head coach. But he's not been known as a great recruiter. So that's why his staff is going to be so important. See who he brings on. And if he brings on the right guys, then I'm not too worried about Nebraska's recruiting going forward. As long as you have Mickey Joseph leading the front, I have a lot of faith in where we're going, just to be honest. Michelle, thank you for being a member. And I love your passion too. You're passionate. I see all your comments. You're always here, always in the chat. You've always got a lot to say. Five Star says, you're missing the point. Your access to the program would vault your channel. Explain. Elaborate. I'm missing context here. Oh, you're saying my access to the program in terms of me living in Nebraska. Yeah, the problem is, there's not enough for me to, like, it wouldn't make sense for me to live there for an entire year. I could just fly out there whenever I want. For example, I can fly out to Nebraska when the new facility's revealed, and I can go and film a video from there then. And if I do have the relationships with, because I do have a lot of relationships now, but if I do get more relationships with players or whatever else, I can just rent studio space there, fly out, go and film interviews in person, and then fly back home. So I don't really need to live in Nebraska to do all that. I still have access to the program. It's more so we need to get the views up and continue to do more content, and then we'll have more opportunities. Darren, thank you for the acknowledgement. I appreciate you. Michelle says she saw the presser and she thinks that Palmer will be back, and so will Casey. So it did sound like Palmer. I have a lot of faith he'll be back. Casey, I didn't hear exactly what he said regarding his return for next year. I know he said it's still up in the air and he's got things to think about. But from what I heard this week and him talking about his future and everything else, it's hard for me to believe he would come back. He's going to be an old 25-year-old super senior, right? He'll be on his second master's program. It's just a lot. I think he for sure could come back. I'm not saying he won't come back. I just think it might be a little bit of a reach right now. Either way, I think there's going to be a lot of good quarterbacks in the transfer portal who can come in and start right away. I think we've got guys in this depth chart who have potential to play, so I'm not as worried about the quarterback position yet. I think that'll all sort itself out in this next month or so, specifically once we know who the offensive coordinator is. That'll tell us a lot more. Bearded Man Baby says O'Brien is a better hire than Rhule. O'Brien is going to get fired from Alabama, and O'Brien is far from a better hire than Rhule. O'Brien has done a tenth in college of what Rhule has done. O'Brien can go back to the NFL for all I care. I do not want Bill O'Brien here. Michael says it's going to take a lot for me to be sold on Rhule. I'm not feeling the almost stats. I get it, and I think there's a lot of people who are going to be like that. If you guys want me to make like a completely positive video about Rhule to sell you on that, I can make one of those if he does get hired. I might have to. I'll just put out all the pros for Matt Rhule and why I believe he's going to be a good fit here. I was in the same boat as a lot of you. I think that's important for me to say. I've come around not because I've accepted it, but because I understand it. Not because I was forced into dealing with it and now I'm forced to talk about it, so now I'm going to pretend and fake like it. I'll never fake like shit. If I don't like it, I'll tell you to your face or to the camera, right? Matt Rhule is not a bad hire. He's not an elite hire, but he's not a bad hire. But an elite hire is reserved for programs that have higher status than we have right now. It's just a fact. We're not in position to go steal Lincoln Riley for a 10-year, $100 million contract. That's not where we are as a program right now. And until we get back to there, we have to accept hiring solid, good coaches like Matt Rhule, who can come in, turn the program around, and win games. If you're joining late, I talked about that in like an extensive kind of rant, and that's, I don't know at what point in this video, but that's in this video. Those are my thoughts on Matt Rhule. And Ryan, thank you for doubling down what I just said. One man, many things said that Yant said something about peace out, Nebraska. You know, I don't know if that's true or not. Let me check real quick. I don't see any tweet from him. But even if he did, you know, at this point, I think there's a lot of players who are going to leave. And I don't fault any of them for it. Some of these guys, you know, they weren't a fit at Nebraska. They weren't a fit in this offense. And they came into a place that was beaten down pretty bad. So if I was a player right now, like Thomas Fedoni, for example, who doesn't feel like he's gotten, you know, a fair shake. He didn't get the NIL money he wanted. He's been injured. He didn't get to come back and play when he thought he should have. I mean, if he feels like there's a better school he should go to that gives him a better chance to, you know, better himself for the future, I understand leaving. And I'm not holding it against any of these players. What's good is when a bunch of players do leave, there are going to be a ton in the transfer portal who want a new opportunity. And there will be a lot of opportunity in Lincoln, Nebraska. There will be plenty of NIL money for all of them. And this new head coach is going to know how to utilize them. So I'm not too worried about any player who leaves. I wish them all the best. It's been, you know, a choppy few years. So I understand. Thank you, CJ, for the super chat, for the $1. I appreciate you. Shelby, thank you for the $2. Iowa has still recruited 2 5-stars in 3 years. How crazy is that? Iowa. I don't get it. How are they able to get 5 stars? Well, part of it is they had guys near them. I think one of those guys was in state. The other part is they make Big Ten championship games. They send guys to the pros. Nebraska doesn't do that. We have in the past, but we haven't been dominant to the level Iowa has anytime recently. And now with NIL money, I think we're going to have a chance to land 5 stars. I would say we're 2 or 3 years away, but I don't want to put a number on it because I really think we're 9 or 10 wins away. Once we can get to 9 or 10 wins, I think we have a much better chance at landing a big-time player, a top 50 player nationally. Cornhusker Corner said, Rhule's old lead recruiter at Baylor is now the #1 ranked recruiter in the country. That's an interesting note. What's his name, Cornhusker Corner? I want to do some research. And Caden, thank you for the $5. We had talked about that a minute ago, Caden. I'm not sure that he's a great recruiter, but we're just accepting him for what he does have, the skills he does have, and then he's going to bring in a staff, hopefully, who does have good recruiting experience. I wish I knew more about the Rhule recruiting, but he hasn't had to recruit at this high of a level ever, right? He was at Temple. He was at Baylor, and he was only at Baylor for 3 years, so he only had to recruit for 2 of them. It's just hard to gauge. The Big Ten's totally different. The landscape's different. He's going to have a learning curve. That's why I think it's integral that it's crucial that he keeps an integral part of his staff like Mickey Joseph, because Mickey recruits. Mickey understands Nebraska, and Mickey is going to make sure that these classes are tight and they are guys who want to win and guys who can win. So I think that's really important. And there you go. Shelby says both 5 stars were from Iowa, same high school. And Nebraska recently has had a lot better players, high school players at least, and those players are going to eventually, you would think, are going to crack top 50 and be a 5-star. Right now, Malachi Coleman is a top 75 player in the country. He's a 4-star, but he's top 75. And we've had some other 4-stars from the state. Nick Henrich. You've got that kicker from Westside we had talked about the other day, who's one of the top 5 kickers in the country. So there are a lot of guys who are going to be up and coming in the future who potentially could be 5-star. And then we might actually see Nebraska land a 5-star since they're going to live in the state or at least down the street. Caden, thanks for the other 5. I think Thomas will stay. He recently shared a post on Twitter about staying around a program. Also, he hangs out with the volleyball girls. Oh, well, if he's hanging out with the volleyball girls, you must be right. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of rumors around everybody staying and leaving. I'm not going to get too deep into that. I won't talk about any guys leaving until they actually do, because I don't want to put that energy out there, you know? Damon says, how can you say he's not a good recruiter when he was at Temple and Baylor? That's ridiculous. Was he a good recruiter at Temple and Baylor, or was he an okay recruiter at Temple and Baylor? Because getting a C+ doesn't mean you get an A. I don't know that it's more, or I don't think that it's about him being a bad recruiter. I think it's more that he's not interested in the recruiting part. He's had multiple statements and interviews where he has said, or at least had his quorums. What is it called? I can't remember the right word now at the top of my head. Point is, he has some issues with recruiting. Doesn't want to go outside the state. I don't think it's his, favorite thing to do, and that's part of the reason I think he left for the NFL. Bad recruiter is a strong statement. Guy who doesn't like recruiting is an accurate statement. Just a thought. I don't know. I'm not bashing him. I'm not saying that he's going to fail here as a recruiter. I'm just saying that I'm not sure he wants to do that part of the job. Memphis says name someone Rhule recruited. That's pretty funny. Baylor had tons of legal problems before Rhule was at Baylor. I just, it's like, I don't know. Like, I get it. I get that there were problems at Baylor and that a coach got fired over it. But Baylor still finished 7-6 and won a bowl game through all the issues. It wasn't like the Baylor situation was Penn State with Sandusky. If we're going to give someone credit for that, let's give it to Bill O'Brien, not Matt Rhule. I get that Matt Rhule inherited a quote-unquote mess, but a mess was Penn State after Sandusky, not Baylor after our Bryles. That was just a blip in the road, and you can see how fast Baylor has gotten back to winning. After our Bryles in 2017, 16, whatever it was, Baylor's already had 2 or 3 11-win seasons. So it wasn't like they had to restart from ground zero. Penn State was in a much worse space. And so I reserve my thoughts on coaches who rebuild for guys like Bill O'Brien, who were really handed an issue. And for a guy who's going to come to Nebraska who's really handed an issue. Or a guy like Lance Leipold, who was handed the keys to the worst Power 5 program in the country, undisputed, and even Les Miles, who was the LSU coach, who got them to, I think, a national championship. He couldn't even rebuild Kansas. So, just a thought. Brian, thank you for the 10. Just a reminder, we beat Iowa, go Big Red. Yeah, bro, I have not forgotten, let me tell you that. It's something I'm going to bask in the rest of the day. It's a good feeling knowing that we have that trophy back in our court. I'm reading chat, guys. I'm just trying to make sure I pull up the best comments. Rhule doesn't have Big Ten experience outside of being a player. And being a player is important. You understand the culture of the Big Ten. But yeah, as a coach, it's going to be a new step for him. But for any coach that Nebraska hired, it was likely going to be a new thing for them. I guess Dave Doran, he coached in the Big Ten at Wisconsin, so it wouldn't be too much of a transition for him. Chris Kleiman, it would be a transition. Most coaches don't have Big Ten experience. That's just a fact. So it'll be a transition for anybody. And this is a good point. He doesn't have to be the greatest recruiter as long as he has a staff that can recruit. If he keeps some of these good coaches who know what they're doing, I have no fear that we're going to continue to land the right players. It's just not even a thought, right? A head coach is only as good as his staff. I think that's the important thing to talk about. So the better question is, how good is the coaching staff that he brings in going to be? How much money is Trev going to give him? All of these things are going to be things that we'll figure out over the next 2 weeks, 10 days, I don't know, something soon. I don't know how soon he'll put a staff together. Maybe he's already working on it now if they're actually engaging in negotiations for that contract, but it's very important that we know what that staff looks like, because that'll tell us a lot more than just what Rhule will tell us. There's a question in here that asked about Rhule's line experience. How are his lines? Rhule was a defensive line coach at UCLA and I think at Temple. I think he's an offensive and defensive line minded guy. He knows you got to build the trenches. Randy says 2 p.m. Saturday we have a coach. We'll see. I think it very well could be announced by then. I wouldn't be surprised. So we've talked about a lot on this video today. We've talked about, clear that chat. We've talked about the game. We reacted to Trey Palmer. We talked a lot about this rumor with Matt Rhule. And I know you didn't see the whole video because a lot of you guys came in later. So if you want to watch the whole video, I'm about to end it. And you guys can go back and watch from the beginning and get all of my thoughts on everything that happened today. The schedule, upcoming schedule. Tomorrow, well, it depends. Tomorrow, let's say they announce Rhule, or Sunday they announce Rhule. I will go live immediately after Matt Rhule gets hired so we can all talk about it. So that's the first thing. On Tuesday, I will have a video or a live stream with John Johnston. It'll be a call-in show. We'll talk about everything else, about the future, about Matt Rhule, about whatever coaching news comes out. It'll be a good show. So that's the schedule for the next week. My guess is we have our coach by Monday at the latest, and we'll go from there. So with all of that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, because a winning day is a good day. We won on Nebraska money line. We won on Nebraska spread. Let's go to Bro Throw really quick. If you guys want to bet on games, because bowl season's coming up. Bowl season's coming up. Let me go to my balance. You won't be able to see it really. I'm down 250 for the day because I lost on all these morning games. But no, that was Colorado State. We won on Nebraska spread. We won on Nebraska over. Won on Nebraska money line. Won on Nebraska over here. What else? We won more Nebraska here. We won more Nebraska here. Anyway, we won on Nebraska today. That was my only good part about my day betting-wise. But tomorrow, we've got a lot of games. I'm going to get back up tomorrow. I promise you that. I promise you that. So if you want to get in on games and get in on action, you go to brothrow.com/GBR and you can join our Corn Craze group. Here's our group. Let me show you guys how it works. There's 582 people in here as of right now. I can see all of our members here. Oops, Stacy just tried to join, so we'll accept Stacy. And then I can see who everybody's betting on. These are all the open bets. And then if there's any bet I want to take, I can take them or whatever. So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty simple to use. And yeah, we'll have games on tomorrow, and then we have the Sunday games with the NFL. So a lot of games to pick from. And I've had some big days, I've had some bad days, but recently I've been better. So that's been a positive. Today's just been terrible. We'll see if Florida State can win. I did take some parlays on my other sports book, and if Florida State does win tonight money line, I will have a positive day overall because I'll win like a 4-team money line parlay. So that would be huge. But we'll see. Anyway, brothrow.com/GBR. They're the sponsor for this channel. They've been great to us, and this has been the best book I've ever used. Or it's not a book, the best site I've used to gamble, better than any other book I've used. This is how much I've saved in using BroThrow over using a sports book. That's a significant number. So, and this is just in a month and a half. So if I would be betting on DraftKings or FanDuel or any of those other sites, I would have this much less in my account right now. So that's why I use BroThrow. That's why I love it so much, and that's why they're our only sponsor. Anyway, and Blaine, I don't know why BroThrow wouldn't let you join. Hit me up on Discord, Instagram, or Twitter, and I'll help you out and make sure that you can get in. Because as long as you're 18 plus or you live in any U.S. state, I'll make sure you can get on. Denon knows. Denon, thank you for the 10. Memphis Reigns said it was cool meeting me after the game last week. Did you meet me at the statue? I think it was at the statue. I remember you telling me you were Memphis Reigns. And Mitch, yes, you can bet on that app, on that site. It's great. Let me see. Is there anything else here that I need to respond to? I think we're all good. Yep, I think we got through all the chat. We got through pretty much everything. So, and yes, it is legal in Nebraska. Husker Power, I'm not sure why it says it's illegal in Nebraska. It is legal in Nebraska. I used it there, and people I know from Nebraska have signed up for it. So, yeah. And Brian, thank you for becoming a member. Bo Pelini, I don't know what Bo Pelini means, but thanks for being a member. Okay, with all that, thank you guys for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.